वेलकम बैक टू माय ऑफिशियल यूट्यूब चैनल। दिस इज गौरव यूट्यूब चैनल में आप सभी का स्वागत है। तो आज हमारे साथ ज्वाइन हुए हैं चारबल, जो कि क्रिकेट ब्लॉग .net के लिए काम भी करते हैं। आज हम उनसे डिस्कशन करेंगे इंडियन क्रिकेट के बारे में, थोड़ा सा ऑस्ट्रेलियन क्रिकेट के बारे में भी डिस्कशन करेंगे। वही हमारा मेन मुद्दा है, क्योंकि वो ऑस्ट्रेलिया में रहते हैं, तो फिर ऑस्ट्रेलियन क्रिकेट के बारे में थोड़ा ज्यादा डिस्कस करेंगे और थोड़ा सा और इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट के बारे में भी डिस्कशन करेंगे। मेरे साथ ज्वाइन हो चुके हैं मेरी टीम में हमेशा जो रहते हैं शोभन, you can properly known him as a cricket guy, and Charbel. Welcome back to my show, mate.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
So how are you right now? I hope you are doing good.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I had a bit of a cold during the week, as you know, but thankfully better now. We're currently in lockdown here in Sydney. We've had a bit of a spike in COVID cases, so hopefully.
So how many cases are in Australia right now, mate?
In Australia, I'm not exactly sure nationwide how many there is, but in Sydney, I know there's about 200 at the moment. So it's not at the levels that you guys have experienced, but I think here they just want to really limit the spread very quickly.
I mean, it is quite difficult to understand. Means in 200 cases they have locked down the entire city, right?
That's right. Even before it got to 200, like a week ago, they locked it down and it was about 100. So once they see it starting to go up, they straight away say, we don't want this to spread. But it is what it is.
And I think it is mask free, right?
What was that, sorry?
I think it is mask free right now, no?
In Sydney, no, you have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask.
Okay.
I guess in New Zealand it's much more. If you are if you are a New Zealander, the New Zealand team is quarantining, I guess, in New Zealand. So that's even like if they get 50 or 100 cases, they also shut the city down. So it's I guess it's much more reactive in New Zealand.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, should we start our discussion? Charbel, are you ready, mate?
I'm ready as always.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should start the topic with our favorite topic. We are still in shock by the World Test Championship final. Okay, so we should start from that topic. So you have watched World Test Championship final very closely, and my question is to you: what went wrong with Team India, according to you?
I think the fifth or the sixth day. That was the one, that batting collapse on the final. That was the final straw. I think maybe India were a little bit unsure of the strategy that they wanted to take on that fifth day. There was a little bit of big shot making and a lot of defence and other times. There's a bit of negativity and then a little bit of recklessness as well in the batting. So I don't know if there was an in-between or a clear strategy of how they wanted to go with it. I think first innings, you're right in the game. Again, maybe another thing that probably hurt India as well was not finishing off the New Zealand tail as quickly as they could have. The New Zealand tail put on some very good runs, and then that 32-run lead proved crucial in the end as well. I think overall there was some good positives for India, but they've got a few things to work on ahead of the England series.
Don't you think the intent was missing from that Indian team? Because if you take my point of view, I think India didn't play with their potential even 10% of their cricket.
Oh, I think they were better than 10%, to be honest. I thought in the first innings they made a good start with Coorey and Rahane getting in. But then too many wickets fell too quickly. And then I thought in the first innings, India bowled quite well as well to restrict New Zealand. You had them in some trouble at one stage. But as I mentioned before, those lower order runs were very important. And then on the final day, to lose Virat Kohli so early was a big blow. And you couldn't really recover from that. So I think for the first game on the tour of England this year, it's, not the best performance, but it's not the worst one either. There's something to build on for the England series.
Don't you think we haven't played that much in England since New Zealand played 2 test matches in England?
Yeah,
Even
that's
though
a key
they
factor.
didn't have played 2 test matches in England, they still got the advantage because this situation in New Zealand and England are quite similar. That's the only reason they got much advantage than than India.
Yeah, I think that was always a key factor. The fact that New Zealand were going to have those 2 test matches before. But at the same time, look, India have a fantastic team themselves. I don't think Virat Kohli would have been making too many excuses that India could have played a lot better because India have quality players. And we saw in Australia that India were able to perform with their backs against the wall and when the odds were against them. So, as I said before, there's key areas of improvement for India, but, they'll look to put the right foot forward against England coming up.
And mate, I think recently I have heard that I hope you know Akash Chopra, the
Yeah, of
commentator, and
course.
who has played for India also. And he has made a very strong point. Whoever the top in the World Test Championship, okay, they need to look forward there, where they want to play, in which country they want to play. So is this right?
So what you mean by that is that whoever finishes first, they get the home ground?
No,
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
wish
Yeah.
anywhere, anywhere they can play.
Yeah, okay. It's possible, but the thing is, it's planning and logistics comes into it because calendars are very much full, and boards are looking at their own seasons. And then I think the World Test Championship final is set in the middle of the year. So if New Zealand want to play in New Zealand, it's going to be very cold in winter time in New Zealand, and that's where the rugby season is on. So I like the idea of having a set location, but I like three tests in a World Test Championship final rather than just the one-off test.
But mate, I think if you're talking about final or even knockout matches, the one game is enough. So you once
Yeah,
you are giving three matches for final, so people will start talking again in probably 50 over World Cup or even T20 World Cup. Even India can say that we the table toppers in 2019 World Cup, right? And one bad match and we are done and dusted in the tournament.
yeah, but the thing is with Test cricket, we all know a Test series is very special. It's a bit different. This is a tournament that goes over 2-3 years. And if you get a washed out final or a one-off final that's affected by conditions, then it really, really is a shame because the competition goes over 2-3 years. A World Cup is over a month, 6 weeks, so you can understand a one-off final. But a 3-match Test series, I think, would be very nice to decide the World Test Championship final. It makes it a little bit
And
more of an event.
okay, and by looking at New Zealand, I think New Zealand have won the World Test Championship final. So
Yeah.
should we call New Zealand the best team in the world?
I think, yeah, they've got the title of it, and I think they deserve it at the moment. They've been fantastic since the tour of Australia, 18, 19 months ago. They lost 3-0. I don't think they've lost the test match since. They've been very strong, albeit, their matches have been at home and in England, but they're still a very, very good side. And their performance in the final was terrific. So they deserve the mantle of the top test nation right now. India can put that right with a very good performance in England. If you win that series in 5 tests, that's going to, I think, put India maybe back at number 1. So it's all on India now.
And I think everybody is saying New Zealand was hammered in Australia. They don't deserve to be a number one side. So is this criticism is fair according to you?
No, it's not, because you got to perform elsewhere around the world. You're not judged just by what you do against Australia. Of course, Australia is a tough place to go, but New Zealand performed very, very well against India at home, and then they won all their games in dominant fashion at home. They won in England, and then they won the World Test Championship final. So they're on a magnificent run, and they're a very, very good side. I know in that Australia series they had a few injuries there as well. They had a very depleted team for that third test in Sydney from memory, but I think New Zealand, they deserve to be treated with a lot of respect. They're a very good team. They've got great depth.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what is the reason, according to you, that New Zealand only play 2 test match series with all the team? I think they don't even play 3 test match series. Forget about 4 or 5.
I don't like it at all. I want to see more 3-match test series, but I think it comes down to what the boards agree with. New Zealand play a lot of 2-match stuff. The ICC, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of control over that. I'd like to see New Zealand play more test matches rather than just the 2. So fingers crossed going forward, we might see more from New Zealand in terms of more than just 2 test matches in a series, because, yeah, it is annoying.
So, when you want to ask something, or should I go for it?
Yeah, the thing
You need
is,
to avoid.
Chal, you raised the point of three Test match series. I guess the problem is when Australia were unbeatable in 2005. There was a series, I guess, Super Series. I'm forgetting the name. So it was Australia versus the World 11. So what happened? They decided that they will play the final. It will be the best of three. When the first two tests, Australia beat hammered the World 11, the third test was a dead rubber. So you always you have to think about that as well. But you said about three tests. I guess Gaurav also mentioned a very good point that if you are having three, then you should have it in a T20 World Cup and 50 over. But your point is right that it's a 1 month. It's a 1 month tournament, but I believe I believe it just takes away that enormity of the event. If you play three, then people will, I guess, won't be attached to the television for three test
Yeah.
match. Or anyways, we are trying to save Test cricket, and three having a three test series, I think it will be too much, in
And
my
I think
opinion.
knockout matches are the only one matches.
Yeah. So yeah,
The
again,
final
the knockout
is
matches. He
one
told
match.
me India have always faltered in the knockout tournaments. So you want to test
Yes.
what your nerves are. How can you express yourself under enormous pressure? So to bring that excitement in the final, that's why it's a knockout. In
Yes.
FIFA, in football, in AFL as well. I guess there is
Oh, I
always one final. Yeah.
completely
Yeah. You
agree
go
with you.
ahead.
I hear you. You make some very, very good points. But for me, what I was saying is imagine if that final was washed out due to rain, and that's 2 or 3 years of action, and I think a three-match series, even in a World Test Championship final, would still have an edge to it because if you take a 1-0 series lead in that, it's just so exciting. Can the opposition come back and get you? You know what I mean? As well, there's going to be that element of excitement to it still. I don't think it'll be one where the fans won't be glued to it because if a team goes 1-0 down or if it's nil or if we're in a deciding test, it's fascinating stuff. So, look, I think I accept the opinions either way. But just for me, I'd love, as a Test cricket lover, I'd like to see more attention given to Test cricket. We talk about T20 cricket being a one-off, but how much white ball cricket do we see? We see so much white ball cricket around the world all the time. But if we can put more attention to Test cricket, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, personally. So that's my view. But I understand both opinions.
And don't you think that the charm of three test match knockout matches you're talking about final will take away
Yeah.
from test cricket? Because I have seen you all guys have been witness of this. World Test Championship final is going in England, and the England, I think, sorry, West Indies was playing with South Africa. Imagine if 50 over World Cup is happening and there are another team who is playing a 50 over matches. I don't think I haven't ever seen that.
That was very strange, and it was still part of the World Test Championship as well while the
Yeah.
final was on. It was very weird. I agree with that. That's strange.
And what are the changes you want to see in World Test Championship tournament in future? If you want to see another rules you want to make.
Yeah, I think I haven't had the chance. I spoke about it on the podcast, on the Cricket Blog podcast earlier in the week. I haven't really had the chance to sit down and have a real proper think about how I would do it because something like this, it's not it's straight away like there's an easy answer to fixing. But I think you have to have a look at the point system. I think the original point system really rewarded a 2-match Test series. You can get 120 points from winning an easy 2-match Test series compared to, if you win 4-0 at the Ashes, you'll still get more points from a 2-match series. So I think they're looking at percentage, something like that at the moment, where they're just looking to sort of even out. I'd like to see more teams as well play more even matches. I think we have too many teams playing a lot more matches than other teams. So if we get a little bit more balance in the schedule, that'll
Yeah,
help.
and one more thing I need to add this. I think you need to change that points table from home and away series. I think if India is winning in Australia or even England, you should be getting more points to them. Or even England is went on to win in India, they should get more points. What about that?
There could be an incentive for away wins as well. But what about if you win away from home against a lower ranked nation? Does that mean does that mean the same points as winning at a higher ranked nation? So there's different things to consider here because you can win away in Bangladesh or West Indies where they're struggling, but you can win in England. Is
Yeah.
that worth the same? I think winning in England is tougher. I think winning in Australia is tougher, but you have to consider how you weigh up the points between the different nations. So that's why I don't think there's an easy answer. You have to really map it out.
Lucas has joined us. Lucas, welcome back to show. Welcome back to my show, mate. You want to ask something with Charbel?
Well, it definitely is for Australia to win in England. You know, they haven't won there in 20 damn years.
That's right.
So it's definitely for them harder to win in England. But you know, he's right about the Test World Championship. You know, you don't want to see, you know, India, for example, go to Bangladesh, sweep them 2-0, 1-0, whatever, and then get more points for it because it's an away series compared to if Australia go to Pakistan, which I think they will be, which is be much more tougher. You know, get the same amount of bonus points. You know, that wouldn't sit right with me. You know, if you look at other sports around the world, you know, whether they win at home or away, you know, they still get the amount of points. I think that needs to still keep the same or stay the same. But what I would change, well, actually, I'll get to that in a minute. But you know, Charbel mentioned a good point: the best of 3 Test series. Let's just say that you have India in Australia. If you have a best of Test 3 series, you would have to schedule that at the right time. It's almost impossible to play cricket matches in the winter here in Australia. It's almost impossible because, you know, not just the weather, but because the AFL, the soccer, the rugby, they're all taking up the major stadiums. You know, Brisbane, you know, the Lions, they take up the Gabba. There's 10 teams in Melbourne that take up the MCG. You know, there's a couple of NRL teams that play at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and the Sydney Swans play at the Sydney Cricket Ground. So it's just almost impossible to play Test matches or any kind of cricket in the winter. You know, so if you had that situation that India played Australian best of 3 series, then they would have to be literally back-to-back Test matches. You would have to schedule them in, I'll just make up a month here, January. So January the 1st. At the end of that Test matches, both teams would have to leave at the same time. They would have to leave at the same time to play immediately the next week in India. And if there's a best of 3, you would have to come back to Australia the next week as well. You know, it's just way too tough on the teams to do it.
I agree with that. I wasn't saying that there has to be in different locations. They could be all played in the same location, a neutral venue. It could happen like that. But in terms of, going back and forth, you'd have to spare at least 6 weeks for the back and forth travel. And that's probably too hard in the calendar.
And I'm a firm believer of whoever makes that final, whoever tops the group should get the final. You know, I don't care if it's Bangladesh or West Indies or Pakistan. You know, whoever makes that top of the table, they obviously deserve to be there because they've won away matches and home matches. You know, like India, they topped the group, I believe, didn't they? Or was it New Zealand?
Yeah,
India. Yeah, see, India won in Australia, you know, against all odds. You know, they deserved to be there. They deserve to be on top of that table. They should get the home final. So I think a change like that can be made in the next final. And I think 2 years, I think that's a bit too much. I think that's too long for me. You know, obviously it makes it hard because of the T20s and the white ball 50 over World Cups. You know, but if you want to shorten the Test World Championship, I think for 1 year you have to play nothing but Test matches, which is impossible as well because of broadcast rights, of, you know, money rights, of, you know, because those Asian countries want to see T20 cricket. They want to see white ball cricket. And, you know, so those are little changes that I would make. Of course, they'd probably be impossible, but it's just stuff like that I wouldn't tamper, but just tweak, just little tweaks of that magnitude. But, you know, one they can instantly do is whoever tops the group plays the final in their home backyard because they deserve to be there.
Another thing, Charles, you've been covering cricket for quite a while. You said about the schedule of 2 Test match series New Zealand will be playing. Do you think, like, at this point in time, you know how all the cricket board works? We have first 4 teams and then we have the bottom 4 teams. I guess cricket is somewhere divided. New Zealand played that final. They deserved it because they played outstandingly well at home. But do you think boards like South Africa, West Indies, and Bangladesh can tour Australia for a three-test match series? I don't think because if you look at the New Zealand schedule, they will be coming to India. They will be playing two tests. Sri Lanka will be coming. They will be playing three tests. So it's all about money. Merit doesn't come. I guess
And I
ICC
think
is
I
driven
was looking
by
for, I
greed
think I was
and
looking
money,
the whole
and I don't think it will
schedule of,
be it will be quite beneficial for any of the boards inviting a small country. They want the audiences to watch the game. They want to sell tickets. They want to sell the sponsorship. I don't think bringing the sponsors is quite a it will be a hard task if you are bringing a team like New Zealand, South Africa, West Indies. I think it's depends it all boils down to one thing, that's money, I believe.
and one more point I want to make. I think if you're thinking about the next World Test Championship circle, New Zealand is still playing only two Test match series. The only three Test match series they will be playing with England. That's the only three Test match series they are having in next World Test Championship circle.
Yeah, I agree with the points there. Boards are very, very money driven. We see the big test series between the big three all the time. They play each other very often. And as a lover of the game, I'm pretty upset about that, to be honest. Australia's had the chance to host Bangladesh numerous times now, and we've turned them back. We've said, no, you're not financially viable enough for us. We're not going to host you. And they haven't toured here since 2003. And Bangladesh have had some fine players. They beat Australia in 2017 on their own patch. So I agree with you. I think the boards are very much driven by money now. What can we get the biggest short-term gain? In terms of broadcasting, in terms of sponsorships, in terms of ticket sales, and just write off that and that's what you see in world cricket. And that's why a World Test Championship is going to be hard to perfect, because you're going to have to try deal with that to perfect the point system. I think it's going to be a work in progress over a number of World Test Championship editions. I think the World Test Championship is important to Test cricket, but it's just got to be ironed out a little bit. And the fact that the boards pick and choose who they want to play and how many tests they want to play doesn't make it easy, unfortunately.
I think New Zealand is the only team who still wants to play only two Test match series, and they are getting more benefit through the ranking system of World Test Championship also.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the 120 points or what you get for winning a two-match Test series 2-0. I think New Zealand benefited, but I think there's also a percentage that's allocated to it as well. It's the percentage of games you win this time around as well. So we'll see what happens in the next cycle.
And Charles, people are talking about, and Lucas as well, people are talking about New Zealand willing to play two test match series. I believe they want to play two test match series because of the broadcasting rights. Because if you conduct a match at Eden Park, it's it's not viable. I mean, it costs a lot of money. So David White, he said it's impossible to arrange a three test match series because you don't have the audiences, you don't have the eyeballs. So it's not financially viable for a small.
That's rubbish.
Yeah, but look, look, Charles. If you look at the schedule, New Zealand is touring Pakistan. They are playing two Test match series. The New Zealand media said, and the players as well, they want to play three Test match series, but nobody is inviting them. But I feel the WTC Championship has brought everyone to a level playing. I believe level playing field. If you don't have money, you still can qualify just via your performances. I believe it's a great attempt by ICC.
Of course. You wanted to say something, Lucas?
Yeah, well, ICC said they always want to improve Test cricket. Now, Charbel mentions a point about when last time Bangladesh toured Australia. Why does ICC give nations like Afghanistan and Ireland a test status when they don't play test matches? I can't remember last time Ireland played a test match. It was probably against England. I think that was the last time. That was 2019, from my memory. I could be wrong. So if your intent to bring more team or more countries, to the test status, why aren't you playing more? Don't come around and say, we want to give them a test status. Then come around 6 months later and say, you know what, setting up test match cricket over there is too expensive. Why even bother? Why even waste our time? Because we've seen, in that Ireland and England test matches, Ireland Irish bowlers, they bowled out England out for less than 100. So the talent is there for those kind of players. Afghanistan, they have a good squad. Yes, of course, they haven't won. They have. I actually think they've won a series. I think they actually beat Ireland, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I think, yeah. So they've won a test series. So obviously the quality is there, but don't come around 6 months later and say, you know what, it's not really benefit for them to play test match cricket at this point in time. Like Charbel mentioned, Bangladesh, they haven't toured a test match series in 2003. Now, I remember they toured an ODI series in 2007 up in Darwin. I think it was. Yep. And
Michael that was a series in England, right? Australia, England, and Bangladesh. That
was a try series in 2005. Yeah. That's where Bangladesh beat Australia.
Yeah, and that was played up in Darwin. Now that's one possible place where Australia could play test match cricket in winter. That's one possible. Actually, I think that series was in June, if I'm not mistaken, Charbel. I think that
is this against Bangladesh?
I think that was in June. I think that was in the winter.
It was in the winter, maybe late winter, about July, August. From
so there's one place that they could possibly play test match cricket in winter, because if you look at, like Charbel said, he made also a very good point. Too many of the big nations are playing each other way too often. Can you imagine Australia and England, playing every year for the Ashes? As much as I love that series, that's the most powerful test series, in the history of cricket. But can you imagine that being every year? It would lose its authenticity. And it would be boring. It would get quite boring to hype. It would be very hard to hype that if that test series was on every year. And that's why you need to bring in nations like Ireland. You need to bring nations like Bangladesh and West Indies to play more test cricket.
Agree. Fully agree.
Okay, guys. I think we have two Aussies right now. So we move on to the Australian cricket discussion. Okay, so my question is to Charbel, that Australia is playing only one test matches, moving ahead to the Ashes. So what's your take on that? I think they will be playing against Afghanistan only, right? And that's the one test match.
I had a chat about this with Lucas yesterday, actually, and that's a big problem. So we might see a situation where some players miss the T20 World Cup, potentially, so they can be here in Australia, get some red ball cricket into them, and then prepare adequately for the Ashes. Because if they play in the T20 World Cup and Australia happen to make the final, no key test player will play in that Afghanistan test, and they won't get Sheffield Shield cricket. So they're going to go into that Ashes series completely undercooked. And I don't think Cricket Australia will want that. I don't know if some of the players want that as well, because the Ashes is still priority for us. Like it or not, test cricket's still in Australia.
Yeah, so, yeah. Test cricket will always be number one in Australia, always.
Yes. So there's going to be a...
Go ahead, Charbel. I think there is an internet issue from his side. Yeah, I think there is an internet issue from his side. Charbel, I request you to rejoin. I think there is an internet issue from your side. Okay, moving on to Lucas. Lucas, I think there is a huge issue if you are talking about Australia always prefer test cricket, then why they are not playing so many test matches in their home or even away?
It's a very good question, and for me, it's obviously they have their traditional test matches. They've got the day-night series in Adelaide. They've got Boxing Day test match. They've got the pink Glenn McGrath, the Jane McGrath test match for cancer. In fact, I think that last year they actually ditched that game. Well, sorry, this year in this Ashes series, they will not be playing that after January, which is completely strange for me. I have no idea why they've taken that away. Maybe because of COVID, I have no idea. But that Jane McGrath test match is always after the January the 1st, so that won't be this year. But I think the reason also why they don't play enough cricket in Australia, is in a way is because I don't think. I say this in the nicest possible way, and if there are any other Australians listening to this, I wish Charbel was listening to this, but I don't want to be disrespectful here. But Australia has an arrogancy of as long as they win at home, it's okay. It's okay. As long as we sweep whoever we sweep, we can go away, stink up the joint, get belted. It's all good. And that's a very negative attitude, a very, very negative attitude. Now, they're supposed to play South Africa this year in after India. Now, their bowlers were they were absolutely cooked, their bowlers. I don't even know how they would have backed up from that series in South Africa. I'm not saying Australia was scared to go to that tour, but I think they just didn't want to risk it. I think they knew that they would go to South Africa and it would be a very hard series for their bowlers who are overcooked. And I think they made COVID as an excuse, personally, not to go. I mean that in the nicest possible way. Their away record since 2016 is 0% winning series. 0% after 2017. That is the worst in the top four. That's the worst, I think, outside of Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, and Ireland. I cannot remember a Test nation not winning an away series since 2017 like Australia, and that was against New Zealand and West Indies that same year. So I think there's a bit of a fear factor that they do not want to go outside of Australia. Now, they've got nowhere to go this next year. They're going to play India. They're going to play Pakistan. They've got nowhere to hide.
Lucas, did you say that Australia last won an overseas series in 2007?
2017 was the last time they won an away series, and that
against
was in
New Zealand.
That was
at
against
Wellington.
New Zealand.
At Hagley Hole, where Brendan McCullum scored that fastest century. Yeah,
fastest ever century. That was the last time Australia won an away series.
Oh dear.
If you go to their recent, they've gone to UAE. Since that, they've gone to UAE twice, got belted. They've gone to Sri Lanka, lost 3-0, embarrassed in the 2014 Ashes series, draw this Ashes series, went to South Africa. We don't need to bring that up. Gone to Bangladesh, drawn that series, lost the first Test match. Gone to India and lost that series. So again,
I think India still have played better cricket.
In India, they played much better cricket in India, but 2 weeks later they played Bangladesh and got embarrassed in that first Test. Mm-hmm. So all their work they did in India went undone in space of one innings, and it's a huge problem. And I think there is a fear factor of going outside of Australia. And like I said, Charbel, you've missed this, but the Australian media and public, as long as Australia win at home, I think everybody's happy. As long as they win at home in front of the fans, it doesn't matter what they do away. Because every time they go to a series away and lose, they don't get criticised for it. They're not in the front paper. They're not in the back paper. The only time they got criticised for an away series loss was that Bangladesh, when they lost that series in Bangladesh. It was all over the paper, national disgrace, all in the TV media. The only time after that series where they felt a little bit pressure is when they played England in 2017, and they won that series halfway before the Test series was over. Steve Smith was getting asked questions in the Melbourne Test series about going to South Africa performing. So he was under a lot of pressure. It was the first time Cricket Australia was under a lot of pressure to win a series outside of Australia, and we know they couldn't handle that. We know what happened there. So it's just the media in this country is so lenient towards Australia not winning outside of Australia as long as they win at home.
Yeah, and don't forget that once we were touring England and South Africa or Australia, we got bashed by the foreign media that we don't play well in the foreign countries, whether you're talking about China countries, right? And we are home track bully and all this. What about Australia? They also are not winning the overs, I think, in Asian condition. So what about Australia, mate? Charbel, welcome back to the show. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Charbel.
Laptop just conked out there, so back now. Good points about Australia not winning overseas, and I think we once we, win a few matches here at home, but the media is very quick to overhype this Aussie team.
Yeah.
I think the Aussie team is a talented one. I think there's some ingredients there, but I think we've got, I think, 2 of the top 4 Test batsmen. We've got the top Test bowler. We've got Josh Hazlewood who's right up there as well. We've got good players, but as a team, we don't quite gel well. In terms of playing overseas, just don't think our players are conditioned enough to bat well against spin or to bat well against the seaming ball. I think our domestic competition isn't as strong as what it used to be. The Sheffield Shield used to be the pinnacle of Australian domestic cricket. Now it's in the background behind the Big Bash. There's a serious So in terms of, improving overseas, we need to really condition our players to be able to deal with and play in those different conditions, because, a lot of the time we go overseas, we look out of our depth. A lot of the players are brought up on white ball cricket need to be really red ball hardened. That's very important. You prepare them well early on in their career.
Okay, also, just a quick one. Just a quick one. You mentioned, that also why Australia don't play more Test matches in Australia. I've always made a suggestion. They could play as early as September or October, but the problem is, because of the other codes, they also have their grand finals. The AFL have their grand finals in October. Same with the NRL, and as you know, with Cricket Australia, they want their Test match crowds at full capacity. They want as much people to go as they can. And that's probably why you do not see Australia play early Test matches, in September or October. This year they play. I think they're in mid-December is the first Test in the Ashes series. Then the Afghanistan in November, which is clearly a warm-up game. So that's also another reason why they don't play as much Test match cricket here as compared to other nations because of the other codes, which is not Cricket Australia's fault. But like I said, there are other ways around it, like playing matches in Darwin, playing matches in Cairns. They're 2 places that could really benefit from playing cricket up there.
Community would really love it up there if you get Test matches there.
Absolutely. Especially the Indigenous, where, cricket, the Indigenous cricket is not really brought up much because they don't play it. We've had great players like Jason Gillespie is Indigenous, so there are players that are there, but, they just play the other codes more than cricket. And I think, exposing the game up there would be a huge step in producing Indigenous players to cricket.
Completely agree with that. Okay. I know we were going to have Zimbabwe ODIs last year, but they're cancelled. So
yeah.
So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can see more winter cricket up there.
Okay, Charbel, moving on to the next topic. And I was just seeing through Mitchell Starc Test career, I think his form is getting down day by day and series after series. So what is the future of Mitchell Starc and Test match you think about? What is the future of Mitchell Starc in Test matches?
I think this summer coming up later in the year will be very important for Mitchell Starc. If he doesn't have a good Ashes series, I think he's going to fall, further down in the pecking order. I don't know if Lucas, you have the same opinion to that because, last summer was a real struggle for him. I think he was maybe going through a few personal things with family and stuff. So that wouldn't have been easy at all. But he just wasn't swinging the ball, and swinging the ball is his biggest strength. And still, I think he favors gets a lot of his wickets against the tail. He's just not consistently getting top order plays out enough. So we're going to have to wait and see what he does this year.
I thought he should have been dropped in the Gabba Test match, but that's just me.
Yeah. There's a case for that because the form was really declining before then. The others had to pick up the slack a little bit. We saw Hazlewood and Cummins over bowled in a way. So there's people like Michael Neser and James Pattinson knocking on the door, and they're very good bowlers.
I think James Pattinson should play more Test matches. I think he's more fitter right now. I think he had an injury concern earlier, but he's getting fitter day by day. I think you need to look at him. And Michael Neser is also a very good candidate for a Test match.
We saw what Patterson did to the New Zealand top and middle order in that Boxing Day Test match. Where he just completely took over. That's the best of Patterson right there. But unfortunately, Charbel, I've said this many times. Justin Langer, I think he's too loyalty for his own good to his players. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but he likes being loyal. But with all due respect, if that South Africa tour would have went on, Mitchell Starc had a poor Gabba Test match. He was very poor. Yet he would have played in that first Test matches in South Africa. And what Justin Langer said when he got asked the question, about domestic bowlers, and he replied, well, who do you want me to play? I think that was a very naive response when you have Michael Neser, you have Patterson in the ranks, playing very good domestic cricket. So that was a little bit of naive from Justin Langer when he said that, and a little bit disrespectful to those bowlers who are trying their guts out week in, week out in the Sheffield Shield. And to hear that from a national coach, that would have been a kick in the teeth for me.
Agree with that.
Okay, Charbel, I think you have one question from our editing team. Samar Desai is his name. He has asked to you, what are the chances of Australia to qualifying the next World Test Championship final, as they have to play 3 series in Asian condition: India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. So what's your take on that?
That's going to be tough. That's going to be really, really tough. We were speaking about Australia's away record. We haven't won an away series for quite some time now, and you got to go win in Asia. Given Sri Lanka's struggles, you give Australia a chance there. Hopefully, it depends on how we play spin. Against India, it's going to be long odds, especially when you consider our own spin bowling. It's very reliant on Nathan Lyon still. And then Pakistan, I still have Pakistan are favourites. It's going to be a very tough ask to make the final for Australia in the next cycle. We're going to have to be absolutely perfect at home, in my opinion.
With all due respect, I don't see us winning any. I don't see us winning in Pakistan. I don't see us winning in India or Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, I believe in Sri Lanka, because even England go there and dominate. So
that's true.
We're capable of doing that too, but we're going to have to be very good at home.
But Charles, I believe, I don't know, I get a confidence when I see this Australian team on paper. I think they can beat Sri Lanka, and they can also beat Pakistan, because Pakistan is a vulnerable team. If you look at their, even New Zealand beat Pakistan in UAE. So I don't think it's a big task to beat Pakistan, because if you look at the spinners that they've got, Yashir Shah, yes, he is hot and cold, and they don't have a spinner. So that's why I feel I believe Australian confidence.
One more point I want to make. You're talking about New Zealand beating Pakistan. I think that was in UAE, right? And Pakistan mostly playing in Pakistan, and they are making Ryan Turner also. So they had a very good chance.
But if it is played in winter, in winter, then I think Australian bowlers can just topple out Pakistan, because the ball seam and swings. If you look at the December wet conditions, I think Australia will fancy their chances. Definitely.
I think ever since Pakistan have played Test matches in Pakistan, I don't think they've lost. I don't think they've lost a series there. Now, albeit against England.
Charles, they have South Africa, a depleted South African side. But Australia will be
Bangladesh as well, but that playing in UAE is one thing compared to playing in their actual home is another.
Yeah.
We haven't had success against Pakistan, even the UAE, potentially Pakistani conditions. No, we haven't. We've struggled against them there, but in Pakistan, as you mentioned, maybe, might suit our bowlers a little bit, but we just have to be mentally strong. Pakistan at home, they're going to be up for that series. Australia at home,
But Charles, I believe Australia and New Zealand both will beat Pakistan in Pakistan. That's my
prediction. That would be interesting.
Yeah. That's for sure. Well, Australia have to play well in home. Well, what else is new? So what's the newsflash? Australia have to once again play well at home, since they can't do it away. There's nothing new there.
All teams have to do. All teams have to be strong at home.
Okay, guys, I think we are. I think the show is getting bigger, so we are asking 2 or 3 more questions from our guest. I think I need to ask one more important question to you, Charbel. What most of the senior player has opted out for the West Indies series, right? So, what is the main reason? Is this biosecure bubble fatigue, or any more reason of that? Because the IPL, I think IPL get over earlier because of I think biosecure bubble problem.
Yeah, they probably said, we've spent a lot of time on the bubble before. Let's try spend some time with the family, because we've got a big last half of the year. So that's probably why, they say, look, let me take a break now, spend time with my family, and then, get fresh for the cricket later in the year, especially the Ashes.
And your point of view on Sri Lanka player three Sri Lanka player has been banned for 1 year. Was it too harsh?
Is that official now?
Yeah, it is official. They have been banned for 1 year.
Ridiculous.
I think that's too harsh. Personally, I think that's just too harsh. But I just think, like the ball tampering from Australia, like it was just the build-up of things. I think Gunathilaka's got a lot of previous history, and it's just Sri Lanka in a bad state at the moment. It's just the board is just gone crazy. 1 year's excessive. It's excessive.
Well, that's what I said to you yesterday. It's James Sutherland now the CEO of Sri Lanka. For crying out loud, come on, give me a break.
Okay, guys, moving on to the final question. Ollie Robinson has been suspended from international cricket by England team. So what's your take on that?
He's suspended for how long?
Yeah.
It hasn't been mentioned yet, but he has been suspended.
Yeah, he was. We know about that. I thought it was harsh. I made a point about that a few weeks ago, and I said that Ollie Robinson's made mistakes, but who else has made mistakes? The England Cricket Board. They have not dealt with racism well in the past. So if Ollie Robinson's going to get suspended, well, we should suspend the ECB as well, because they've made mistakes. So if you're going to say... I'll say one thing. The England Cricket Board, I'm strong on this opinion. The England Cricket Board wants to have the chance to rectify their past mistakes. So who are they to say, or who's anyone to say that Ollie Robinson has not improved as a person? That's 10 years ago.
And he has apologized in public place also. I think he has apologized in the media.
On BBC, yeah.
Yeah, he apologized. And, he made mistakes, but that's 10 years ago as a teenager. And he was brought up in a culture where racism was rife in England cricket. He was growing up thinking this is normal. I'm not defending him in any way, but it's a while ago.
And why county cricket didn't take any action of that? Was it normal at that point of time for county cricket?
I'm telling you, mate, the culture of racism in England cricket, you see it come out story after story after story of players that have had to deal with racism in England cricket.
And not just in cricket, football as well.
Football, especially, It's not something new. It just hasn't been dealt with well in the past, and now Ollie Robinson is being, I think, dealt with very harshly.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's time to wrap the show. Thank you, Charbel, for finding time for us. It was lovely chatting with you. And
Rupendra wanted to ask. Rupendra wanted to ask a question.
Joined late for us.
Rupendra.
Yeah?
Come on, Rupendra.
You want to ask something?
Bring Rupendra. Bowler bouncer.
Yeah. I had one question with Charles. I just got some news like West Indies Australia series. There is no broadcaster who got any broadcasting rights to show matches in Australia.
I heard about that as well. I think it's happened a few times here where we get the broadcasting rights come here very late. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful that we will get the broadcasting rights here because,
I think West Indies will be telecasting on the YouTube channel of Australia and West Indies matches.
It'll be on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, actually, Australian.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, guys, I think time is running up.
To be fair, he wants to wake up and watch Mitch Marsh at 4 a.m. To be fair, so
I was waiting for that.
The matches are actually, I think, 9:30 a.m. Australian time, Sydney time. It's 9:30 a.m. in the morning, I think.
Yep. But I ain't gonna wake up for that. I'm not gonna wake up for that. With all due respect, YouTube can have it. YouTube can have it.
Yep.
Okay, guys, it's time to wrap the show. It's already, I think, 50-minute show. It's time to wrap the show. Thank you, guys, for joining us. Charbel, thank you very much. You've been very sweet for us, and you have joined again in our show. I hope you have enjoyed our conversation.
It's been awesome. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Charbel. And Shovan, thank you very much. Rupendra, thank you very much for joining us. And Lucas, as usual, you have also joined us. So
brilliant.
thank you very much.
Magnificent. Yeah.
Thank you guys. I really love being here.
Yeah, it's time to wrap the show. Thank you all guys. It's time to wrap the show. वीडियो पसंद आए लाइक करें, सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकन को भी जरूर दबाएं. देख रहे हैं तो फिर भी सब्सक्राइब नहीं करें तो सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को भी जरूर दबाएं. और इंस्टाग्राम ट्विटर पे भी मुझे फॉलो कर सकते हैं. इट्स गौरव अयान के नाम से ही मैं दोनों जगह पे हूँ. तो आज के लिए इतना ही रहने देते हैं. तब तक के लिए शुभ रात्रि, शुभ रात्रि, शुभ रात्रि. एंड Charbel, thank you very much again. You have joined in our show. It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye.